one of the things that I wanted to do to bring to the organization was something on web video, right? We all have heard tons and tons of stuff about, web video is the new place to produce, blah, blah, blah. Great, but how do you do it? How do you work on projects with micro budgets like a web video is going to have or a web series is going to have? How do you monetize it? Things like that. And that's why I wanted to bring these two lovely people in to speak to you. And quite honestly, I think they might have it a little better. They might have a little better idea of where production's going than I do, because I produce videos for other people, mostly corporate stuff. And those of us that do that day in, day out know that that is becoming a commodity, right? Ever since the advent of the DSLR, everybody with a DSLR and a cheap copy of Final Cut is now a production company. So it's sort of becoming a commodity. But what these guys and gals have is something that's not a commodity. They have something that's a property, something that they own, a piece of content that's not a commodity. It's a very special thing that they can monetize with. And I think they're in a little better place than I am because of that. So I'm not going to go through and read bios and all that stuff, you guys, because we took so much time going around. You can introduce yourself, right, Tom? We'll start with Tom Kalitenoi.
I'm going to film this whole thing with my DSLR. Damn DSLR owners. Yeah. So hello, San Diego Media Pros. How you doing? My name is Tom Kalitenoi. I'm the executive producer of the What's on Draft show. It's a show about beer, and it's recently been syndicated on the soon-to-be-launched OTT network Drink TV. My personal goal has always been to get this show syndicated on some kind of network, whether it's something big like Netflix or a smaller OTT thing like the one we ended up getting. So I have achieved that goal, but it took a long time to get to that point. A lot of producing web content for free and just kind of figuring it out. So I'm going to kind of just take you chronologically through how I got to the point where I had a piece of content, like he said, that I was able to monetize. And everything leading up to our syndication. And hopefully there will be some useful information hidden somewhere in my presentation. No promises, though. So I was born and raised here in San Diego. I've always enjoyed making videos. My first job, in fact, as a teenager was making videos for my mom's church, New Break. I went to Mesa. Hey, what's up? And I transferred to Cal State Fullerton. When I was a sophomore in college, I started making like comedy sketches with my friends and just putting them on YouTube. You can still watch them all if you want to on hotdamntv.com. They're not good. The production value is terrible. They're not that funny either, so watch them at your own risk. I graduated film school in 2009, which meant two things. First, Arnold Schwarzenegger's signature is on my bachelor's degree, which is really weird. But also the job market was crap. So my first job out of film school was delivering pizzas for Round Table in Rancho Bernardo, living with my mom. That was cool. Eventually, a connection with a fellow alum from Cal State Fullerton got me a job as a production assistant on a Bravo show, which led to working on Top Chef, which led to working as a camera utility on the Universal Lot on another talk show, and so on. So I worked on shows in LA for like 5 years. With the goal of trying to be a camera operator and just working as a camera operator all the time. But it's, it's a grind out there. I stopped making mediocre comedy sketches in 2012 and started making instead a mediocre web series about craft beer called Crafty. Since I was mostly working on reality shows at the time, I kind of tried to structure Crafty as sort of an unscripted reality show, kind of like Top Chef, to the best of my ability. I did it with my friends Grant and Aaron. We made like 12 episodes in total. We ended up doing a shopping pilot with a brewery up in Agora Hills called Ladyface. The pilot didn't go anywhere. And Crafty was kind of dead in the water at that point. The only good that came of it was I got my friend Aaron, who I worked with on the web series, a job here in San Diego in the craft beer industry. But I wasn't in San Diego at the time. I was still in LA. And fast forward to 2014, I was still in LA, and I was really bummed about it. Like, I didn't like LA. It's not that fun. I lived in the valley. I lived in the shitty part of the valley, so that's why I didn't like it. But I was up there, and I was discouraged that Crafty didn't go anywhere and the pilot didn't go anywhere, but I still wanted to pursue this idea of making a show about craft beer because it's such this raging trend, and it just kept getting more popular. And I noticed that it was pretty underrepresented in popular media for some reason. So I'm going to show you just like a quick sizzle reel from Crafty, or part of one, just to give you some context.
Cilantro. Today we're at Stone Brewing Company,
Ladyface Ale Company,
Mother Earth Brew Co.,
Hangar 24 Craft Brewery,
Ballast Point Brewing Company,
The Brewery in Orange County, Paramount Studios at LA Beer Fest. Obviously, we've got a lot of ground to cover here, babe.
We went through a big expansion this year. We want to get really good beer to more people.
I'm Mike James from 5secondfilms.com. I would like you to watch me brew a batch of my holiday spice beer. I like it when people watch.
Hey, welcome to Iron Fire Brewing Company. As you can see, we are very far from opening.
As far as actually getting construction done, that all tends to go pretty quick. The hard part's getting the proper permitting.
Greg, how does it feel to finally be up and running?
I think the most exciting part is actually getting to go out to a bar, see your tap handle, and order your own beer.
We're here with Mitch Steele, brewmaster of Stone Brewing Company. How are you doing, Mitch?
Great, how are you?
How do you stay true to your small craft beer roots when you've got such a big operation going?
The CEO of Founders Brewing, Mike Stevens, recently said in an interview that he wouldn't want to be in a startup brewery right now. Do you agree with that?
There's an awful lot of craft brewing companies in San Diego. Do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing?
It's good for the consumer. It's bad for people looking to start a brewery.
Cedar is definitely an uncommon choice for brewing. It's usually oak. What gave you the idea to put that in?
All right, let's get this tasting underway.
This is the beginning. This is Stone Levitation Ale.
The dark one there is the Black Marlin Porter.
So this one here is our 5150 IPA.
The next is the Take Her Home Triple. Definitely not a beer for beginners. It's got a very full body, almost umami in its satisfaction of my taste buds.
Lee Chase, the proprietor and the original head brewer at Stone, is my mentor. So we...
All right, so you get the idea. It's Thank you. That was Crafty. The sizzle reel makes it look kind of exciting and fun, but it was kind of underwhelming for for a number of reasons. If you watch a full episode, which you still can, they're all still live if you want to. The production value wasn't amazing. The editing wasn't that amazing. Again, the sizzle reel looked cool, but there wasn't enough B-roll, and it was kind of boring. I think I'm my own worst critic, but we shot primarily on a Sony HVR Z1U, which still used magnetic tapes. Remember those? Those are cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I got a bunch of DV tapes. You can just have them. So yeah, we had this old Sony. We used a pirated version of Adobe Premiere, and we used YouTube as a delivery platform because it's free. Full episodes ended up being about 15 minutes long, and we exported everything as FLV and 1080 HD, but the bit rates were low, and it was kind of a rough draft to what we're doing now with the What's on Draft show. It was just kind of amateur, and but it was a stepping stone to where we are now. So sucking at something is the first step towards being sort of okay at something. And so but for my purposes, I disparage my Sony Z1U, but the gear didn't really matter for web, at least not for my purposes. If you're producing for web, and especially if you're doing something just as proof of concept, which is kind of what we were doing, the gear didn't matter at all. Especially now, you can use your phone to shoot something for proof of concept. If you have specific delivery specifications that you have to hit, and you have a certain chroma subsampling that you have to hit and a bit rate that you have to hit, then you have to hit it. But if you're just doing proof of concept, it doesn't really matter. I know David Lynch would lynch me for saying that, but most consumers don't really care, I don't think. I mean, the Douglas brothers made a feature film on an iPhone 6, and they won a bunch of awards for it. So, what are you going to do? So all those things, like the creative aspect and the technical aspects of the show, I was not super impressed with, and I think that's why I didn't go anywhere. But the thing that stood out to me about it is that it's not particularly unique. If you go on Instagram or YouTube or Vimeo nowadays, you know, chill dudes who just want to drink beer and try every brewery in America is like a dime a dozen. Like, so, you know, we were a dime a dozen when we were doing Crafty. And so when I was developing and executing What's on Draft, I wanted to change my approach to it. And so I just completely changed my approach and the format and really my life to make it more conducive to making interesting media. There's a book from the 90s called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by two guys named Al Rees and Jack Trout. And it's a little dated. It's about marketing, and there's no mention of like Facebook or Twitter or all the things you use now for marketing. But there's a lot of timeless wisdom in it as it relates to marketing in general and sort of standing out. And one of the things they talk about in the first couple chapters is the value of being first. Say, like, it's better to be first than to be better, is what they say in the book. And so the reason they say that is because everybody remembers who's first. Like the example they give is Charles Lindbergh. Everybody remembers Charles Lindbergh because he was the first person to fly across the Atlantic solo. Who was the second person to do that? Nobody cares is the sad answer. He did it faster and he did it with less fuel, but nobody knows his name. Everybody knows Charles Lindbergh's name. Nobody knows the guy who did it better. So that's kind of their example that they give. As I just pointed out, chill dudes who love craft beer and just want to check it all out all across America are a dime a dozen. So I'm obviously not going to be the first person doing that. I wasn't even the first person doing it 5 years ago when I did Crafty. Pardon me. Yeah, I wish. I should have brought beer. I apologize for not bringing beer, by the way. But what these guys in this book talk about is creating a category in which you can be first. So like if you're a hairdresser and you want to make a podcast about Dungeons and Dragons, you're not going to be the 100th person even to make a podcast about Dungeons and Dragons because so many people have done that. But maybe you're the first hairdresser who's done it. And so maybe you play through a campaign while you're styling someone's hair and you make a podcast about it. I don't know. You're the first person to do that specific thing, and then you have a category where you're first. For our purposes with the beer show, I started structuring my life in a way where I could call myself the first commercial brewer who is also a filmmaker. So there's lots of home brewers who are filmmakers, but to my research, I couldn't really find anyone who was doing it professionally who was also making films about it. So basically what that meant is that I left LA. I got a full-time job here as a brewer. I worked that job for a year and a half while I was developing the What's on Draft show. Now, this course of action presented a few challenges, not the least of which is that it's really hard to get a job as a brewer in San Diego because everybody wants to do it. It's like being a chef in New York or trying to go to LA and be a DP. It's like very competitive. And so it's hard to get in. And getting a job at a good brewery is even more competitive. So the brewery that I ended up working at, it's not like the best brewery in San Diego, but they actually have a pretty bad reputation. But it was good. It was good enough for me to like learn how to brew and be in the industry. I don't work there anymore, so I can talk about them like that. My friend Aaron, who I mentioned earlier as getting a job in the beer industry here in San Diego as a result of the Crafty show, had at this point, 2014, been promoted to head brewer, and he needed an assistant. So that was me. I left LA, and I started working for him, and now I was a brewer filmmaker. And I was, not a home brewer, a commercial brewer. I was working for a company in San Diego making beer for a living. And I think that perspective, as a industry insider, ended up being key in making my media more interesting and marketable and unique. So yeah, again, to recap everything leading up to What's on Draft, over the course of like 6 or 7 years, I made comedy sketches that went nowhere. I made a web series about beer that went nowhere, a pilot that went nowhere. I was trying really hard to be a camera operator in LA, and that didn't really work either. but I just kind of took pieces of all these things that worked and got rid of everything else. And I did my best to create a category in which I was first, and I just recorded with whatever gear I could afford, and I just kind of slowly improved it and upgraded it over time. What's on draft? What's on draft is the reason why I'm here speaking tonight. What's on draft is why people know who I am. It's why Michael invited me here tonight. It's the piece of media that I've created that was marketable enough to be sustainable. And now that you know my entire life story, let's talk about my media. What's on Draft is a brewer-produced show about craft beer and craft beer culture. The format is live-action video, mostly unscripted. The genre spans comedy, travel, documentary segments. Some episodes are as short as 6 or 7 minutes, and some are as long as 16 or 17 minutes. We've divided this content into 2 seasons, which are released weekly when the season is live. It's based in San Diego mostly, but we do travel segments in other parts of the country and other parts of the world sometimes as well. To give you a little bit more of an idea of what it is, and assuming that most of you probably haven't seen it before, I'm going to show like 2 minutes of a clip.
Brew, but first, there's one more Kickstarter reward that has not yet been fulfilled. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
There you go, buddy.
Oh man, that is like a neon highlighter.
So you get to pick anywhere on the car to put the logo except for the windows.
Right.
The top of the S is going to be f***ed up. No, it wasn't supposed to be a circle, right?
No, not really.
That was anticlimactic and disappointing. So let's go inside and have some sake.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Transition.
Ooh.
I know. The first one he did was 9.5%.
Ooh.
But we want to serve it in pints, so we brought it down to 7%. It's literally just 2-row lactose coffee.
All right, yeah, that's fine.
Super straightforward. You get the sweetness from lactose.
Yeah.
There's a little vanilla in there too.
Do you guys ever put it on nitro?
We have, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like it more in CO2.
Have you heard of McLeod up in LA?
Yeah, I watched your episode about it.
Sweet.
Every one of these is cask conditioned. Our mentor said we would stand out from other breweries if we did cask. I mean, all breweries do cask, but we wanted to be the main thing for us. So we set the brewery up with 6 beer engines, and we just did the whole thing the way it would be in the old days.
What are we doing with these? We're throwing them in the...
I think we're just throwing them in the back.
Oh, I feel like we're working too hard.
It's hard to do it when you have a beer in your hand. Dragging the hops everywhere. I mean, we'll probably rinse them before we put them in, but maybe not. So yeah, these are the lupulin glands, and they contain all the essential oils and alpha acids. And then the outside is just to protect it. So you want to make sure that the inside, where you can see the yellow pollen, is the healthiest. The yellow pollen has all the resins and essential oils and alpha acids, beta acids, and that's where that good bitterness comes from, is the actual pollen. Boom. That's what your beer is, folks, right here.
You get the idea. It's a show about beer and craft beer lifestyle. Those are some unscripted segments that we did. Oh, wait, maybe it is loading. No, maybe not. Those are some unscripted segments that we did. We also do some narrative segments on the show, centered around a fictional brewery in San Diego called Sleepaway Brew Co., which is branded as the chillest microbrewery in all of San Diego. If you want to check that out, you can on our website, whatsondraft.tv, as well as the full episodes of these clips that I showed you. But that's good enough for context for now. Technical aspects of the show, I use this camera for most everything, the Panasonic GH4. It's a great little camera body. I spent maybe $500 on lenses. I got a Metabones adapter so I can use all these old legacy lenses. I had an old Nikon, 40-year-old Nikon lens from an SLR that I got as a gift when I was in high school, and I use an adapter and I use that lens all the time. All in all, I spent maybe like $8,000 on gear before I started working on the show. $1,000 of that was the editing bay itself and storage. I had a friend of mine put it together, and I paid him in beer because brewers get free beer. So that's a currency that I used a lot for the show. I went with PC just because it's cheaper. Final Cut is great software, and I used Final Cut when I was doing post-production at NBC.com in LA. But to get a bay with enough horsepower that I needed, if I was going to get a Mac, it would have been like 3 times as much money. And I'm not wealthy, so I went with PC. I'm not saying PC's better, but it is. So $8,000, not a lot of money for some people, but a lot of money for me because when I moved down here from LA, I was broke as a joke. So how did I finance the show? Financing the show was difficult because while we did eventually launch a crowdfunding campaign, we couldn't launch a campaign until 2016 because when we started planning things and laying the groundwork for season 1, nobody knew who we were. So, Crafty had been dead for a while, and we hadn't really established ourselves in the beer community yet. So, our eventual goal, again, was syndication, but I knew it was going to take a while to get there. So, the short answer of how I financed the show is I kind of leveraged my entire life to support it. I lived on my friend Aaron's couch for like almost a year, saving up money. I stopped going out. I only drank beer if it was free, which was all the time because I was a brewer. But I only bought groceries that were on sale. I used my credit card. I asked my friends and family to buy me like lenses for Christmas, and they didn't. But I just lived extremely frugally for like a year. So all of 2015. I just kept my head down and worked my brewing job, but I was also writing, planning, getting a website together. And at the end of 2015, I started shooting footage for What's on Draft. We released our first episode in February of last year, and we kept releasing episodes every Monday until June of last year. Initially financing was credit cards, leaving LA, couch surfing, selling all my stuff, and just centering every aspect of my life around the show. As you may have guessed, I have no children and I'm not married. So this very extreme level of full immersion for funding a show may have varied success, but it's what I did. So again, I knew we needed to do crowdfunding if this show is going to get past this initial season 1 batch of content that we made. I considered Patreon, which a lot of my friends use. My friend Chris Allison from Toonhole in LA uses it. My friends here in San Diego with San Diego Beer Talk Radio use Patreon, but I didn't think it would work for us. So I decided to do one precisely timed Kickstarter to keep the project alive and get from season 1 to season 2. When I was planning the crowdfunding campaign, I knew we needed about $25,000 if we were going to do it again, another season. But I also felt that the best method for a successful campaign was for it to coincide with season 1. So what that meant is that I ran a crowdfunding campaign while I was putting full episodes out, which was really fun. But from late May to the end of June last year, I was simultaneously running the crowdfunding campaign and putting out new episodes, editing, publishing, and promoting them online. This was a real bummer to do, and it was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. But I also feel that doing it this way was pretty key to the success of the crowdfunding campaign because putting a new episode out every week made the campaign relevant again every week. You normally get a big push at the beginning of a campaign and a big push at the end, and then in the middle there's this plateau where no one cares about your Kickstarter. But the episodes helped offset that enough for us to be successful. It was definitely kind of the defining moment for the show, and I knew that this 6-week period would make or break us. And full disclosure, if it wasn't successful, I absolutely did not have a plan B. So, yeah, I just would have been completely leveraged to the hilt on a dead project with no way to really monetize it. So there's probably a better way to do crowdfunding than the way I did it, and I would certainly urge you all to find that any other way to do it. But, that's how I did it. Also, side note, there was another crowdfunding campaign that went on right before us for Suds County, which I think some of you guys worked on. Yes. That wasn't successful, which sucks because the first Suds County was really good. But it was a kind of a reality check for us too, and we ended up lowering our goal for the Kickstarter, which was good because I think Sheldon made like 19 grand before he suspended it. We were asking for 25. We lowered it to 17,500. If we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have gotten anything because we were doing an all or nothing campaign. We only ended up making like 18.5 grand. So if we had stayed at that initial 25 grand, we would have been screwed. So now, July 2016, I have 17 grand after Kickstarter takes their large fee out of it. And that 17 grand needs to do 3 things. Fund an entire second season of the show that needs to be better than the first season. Fulfill all the remaining Kickstarter rewards that haven't been fulfilled, and cover my basic cost of living until May of this year. So I really had to stretch those dollars. At this point, I had quit the brewery. I don't know if I mentioned that. I quit last March. As soon as we started putting episodes out for season 2, it became very clear that I wouldn't be able to have a full-time job and do this the way I was doing it. So I just, but it was very time consuming to do the show, and I knew that was going to be the case moving forward. So I knew that the 17 grand would also have to pay my rent for that period of time. So as I said before, I handle logistics, shooting, post, social media, and pretty much everything else. But I'm also wearing multiple hats in the field when we're shooting. I made a short video for a crowdfunding campaign to show people how I do it. I'm going to show like a minute or 2 of it. Bear in mind, it's made for a specific audience. It's made for an audience that doesn't understand how media is made. So it's kind of simple, but it gets the point across.
Hey guys, it's Tom from What's on Draft. I wanted to make a quick little video kind of explaining our filmmaking process with the show and how we put the episodes together. So basically for a flight tasting episode, we'll come in, we'll have 3 cameras. Either Aaron or myself will operate one. We'll hire somebody or bring a friend to operate the other camera, and then we have a GoPro for our wide shot.
A mark, B mark, and GoPro.
You got both of those GoPro. So there's 3 camera angles, and then we're each wearing wireless microphones. So I'll come in, set up all that gear, and then if I'm hosting, I'll sit down and we'll get started. Alpine, take 1 mark. Boom. Have to constantly keep an eye on all the gear, make sure everything's running, make sure everything's going because I'm the camera assistant, even though I'm the host.
Is that still rolling? Yep. I have a record limit. I'm pretty sure I heard the shutter, so I don't think we missed anything. Are you rolling on the Tascam too? Sweet. B-cam, mark. The flight tasting episodes usually end up being about 10 minutes, but we usually talk for about an hour and a half. So once we're done with all that footage, I have to go home, synchronize all the footage together. I have to sync the sound from these 2 cameras with the sound from that camera. So I go through and I look at the waveform and I look for the clap.
I knew that you had to, I just didn't know why.
And then I have to condense it all down to 10 minutes and then just slowly piece it together through the editing process. And that's really the most time-consuming part, is the editing. Now, obviously on a show with a big budget, you have your production coordinator, you have your producer, you have your director, you have your camera operator, you have your video editor, and you have your host. But when we do What's on Draft,
I'm doing all those things simultaneously. It's one of the ways we're able to keep costs significantly lower, which is why no one's really done a show like this with a small budget like ours, because a normal show would have to hire 6 different people to do those 6 different things, but I'm doing it all myself.
Yeah, why don't you go camera left a little bit? You're gonna have to adjust your focus though. Just make sure I'm in focus, it's very important.
And I also have to be constantly taking story notes in my head while I'm talking to the person, because I need to get B-roll footage later of what we're talking about so that I can overlay that footage on top of the interview, so it's not just boring interview footage.
So we were fortunate enough to get the building next to us about a year ago. We have some sour barrel aged beers over there.
Oh, really awesome.
Knocked out right into the barrels and fermented in the barrels next door.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. Anyone who is a video shooter, you do jack of all trades stuff. That's just how we did it specifically in these flight tasting episodes that we would do. I only use music from Free Music Archive when I'm doing it, or my friend at Chris Allison's band, Lord Loud. I have my camera operator friends, Chris Cochran, Adam Jarris, and Kurt Olson, who are like camera guys that I've worked with who have been super helpful, but I only asked for favors when I absolutely needed it so that the favors would last longer. I met my web designer on Tinder, and she made me a really awesome WordPress website for free. That method of recruiting people to help you with your show might not be replicatable, but that's one thing that I did. Her brother also did some graphic design work for us for a really awesome rate. But one of the main ways that I got most bang for my buck with this particular project was kind of a byproduct of being an industry professional in the beer industry. When we're shooting episodes of the fictional brewery, or if we're shooting B-roll, I had pretty much unfettered access to breweries whenever I wanted. A brewery is a very unique looking space, which lends a higher production value to visual media, but it's also an extremely dangerous workspace. There's a reason why when you go to a beer tasting room, there's an area where you're not allowed to go as a customer. It's because there's boiling liquid and high pressure tanks and really toxic chemicals. It's really not that safe, but I bypassed all those obstacles with ease. And if I was just a filmmaker who wanted to go in there and make a short film about beer and shoot inside a brewery, they would want all these waivers and insurance. They'd probably want safety training for any of the crew that went in there. They would want, there would be so many hoops I would have to jump through, and it would have been so much more logistically challenging and expensive. But they knew that I knew how to navigate that workspace because I'd spent the past year and a half working as a brewer. And so they just let me kind of do whatever I want. That obviously made shooting B-roll and scripted episodes a lot easier. But taking that kind of idea a little bit further, I also just started looking at every aspect of my life and thinking how I could make it into an interesting thing for the show. My girlfriend was living in Paris for a year, and so I did a travel episode in Paris. I found a round trip ticket for $400 on some crappy European airline. And I shot a travel episode in Paris. I had to go to a wedding in Kansas City, so I shot a brewery in Kansas City. I had when we were doing our crowdfunding campaign, we were late on one of our reward fulfillments. 20 or so people had given us $100 each to put their name or their logo on our company car. But my car had died, and my mom had given me this crappy Civic. And so we just kind of turned it into a segment you saw a part of it with the guy putting the sticker on the thing. We just turned that into a segment for our season 2 premiere, and it ended up being one of the highest viewed episodes of the season. People really liked it. If you go into the parking lot, you'll see this goofy Tokyo Drift wannabe green car. That's my daily driver. I don't have another car. I can't afford another car. I again leveraged everything for the show. The show's boss. Online delivery. Like I said, release episodes weekly. Starting in January for season 2. Starting in January of this year, we released 16 episodes through May 15th with a 1-month hiatus in the middle. I elected to use Vimeo Pro as a hosting service instead of YouTube for What's on Draft, instead of what we did for Crafty. Just personal preference mostly. I feel like YouTube just kind of gives the users too much control. If like somebody doesn't like you, they can flag your video or something. I don't know. It's just personal preference mostly. But season 1, I did the flight tasting episodes 1080, 30 frames per second, and I did the scripted episodes 4K, 24 frames per second. I don't know why I did it like that. I just do everything 1080, 24 frames per second now. Shot on the GH4, 100 megabits per second, but I didn't have, and I still don't have an external recorder, so the chroma subsampling is 420, not 422. But again, for my purposes, that didn't matter because it just didn't. Final episodes I published at H.264 MP4 files at 50 megabits per second. So the final files are like 5 gigs, give or take. Episodes would come out Monday, but I would usually upload the final video file like late Sunday night, because I didn't have picture lock on the finished episode until then. I don't recommend working with such razor thin margins. It's really stressful, but that's how I did it. Once it was live, I would post it on our Facebook page for What's on Draft, and I would boost it for anywhere from $10 to $100, usually locally here in San Diego. Sometimes I would do one that was targeted to San Diego and Los Angeles, or like major beer cities like Portland and Denver and San Diego and New York. Or in the case of the Kansas City episode, I would do like specific to that episode. Facebook ads is complicated and confusing, and we weren't able to outsource that part of our marketing. But I would definitely recommend that you do if you use Facebook ads, because it's just like this just has like a steep learning curve, and I didn't really get it. I actually know someone who we're going to use moving forward, her name's Chloe. If you guys want someone who can help you with Facebook ads, she's great. I kind of consulted with her for like an hour, and she tried to teach me how to do it, but it's just kind of a weird learning curve thing. So moving forward, we're definitely going to hire her and just have her do it. We also posted our episodes on the largely popular website Reddit, which sometimes was great and sometimes was terrible. It's really, sometimes they like you and sometimes they don't. I don't really know how Reddit works. But yeah, sometimes they'd be like, they upload it, this is amazing, how did you do it? And sometimes they'd be like, this sucks, you're gay, and then downvote me. Thanks, internet. Don't read the comments. That's the other thing about online media. Just never read any of your comments. One other thing we did for like viral marketing is we created a pinup calendar called the Sexy Brewers of San Diego, which, as you can imagine, was pretty much all men with less than ideal physiques. But we did that at the end of last year, and that was right before we launched season 2, so that it ended up being like we got a decent amount of press out of it and some radio interviews and stuff. And we also raised $2,000 for charity, so that was cool too. So yeah, I was in the calendar actually, because we had an extra page in the back. I'll show you later. So now season 2's over. I've posted all my video content. I've spent all my Kickstarter money. And I've maxed out all my credit cards. So how do I monetize this content is like the real question. We could have done product placement or direct sponsorships. We chose not to because we were trying to figure out exactly what we wanted the format and the tone and the structure of the show to be, apart from money, which was great because we had creative control, but maxed out credit cards. So that was a bummer. Syndication, again, always seemed like the only financial solution for this particular type of media that made sense to me. Again, I didn't think Patreon would work. The Kickstarter was awesome and definitely necessary, but I also feel like I already did a Kickstarter and I don't want to like do it again. I kind of feel like I asked all my friends for money because it was mostly like beer industry people who helped me out, and brewers are all broke, so like I can't do it again. So syndication really seemed like kind of the only solution that would make sense. And we were certainly just reaching out to all connections that we had. Anyone I know who worked on a thing, if I knew somebody who worked at Hulu, or if I knew somebody who worked if I heard about an OTT network, I would try to reach out. The one that we ended up going with for our season 1 content was actually somebody who reached out to us. We did an episode about McLeod in Los Angeles, and the CFO of the network saw it and shot me an email, and we ended up going with him for our syndication. But that's pretty much it. That's how we got our syndication. So this entire project was essentially a 3-year gamble, initially with my own money and then with Kickstarter money and my personal credit lines. And the gamble was that I would be able to create something compelling and interesting and viable that no one else was doing in that particular way. And that a network would see the value in my work before I fell into complete financial ruin and had to move in with my mother again. And it seems to have worked. Barely by the skin of my teeth, but people are now noticing the show. And we're very, very excited about this milestone of syndication that we've achieved. But even beyond that, we also have this body of work that we've created, which has led to opportunities and is continuing to lead to other opportunities. I may work with another media company in LA for a project with the Travel Channel. I've also gotten some freelance work here in San Diego making commercials for local breweries. I did a campaign for Thorn Brewing in North Park. So, yeah, that's me. Online media, that's what I did.
Can you explain the syndication deal?
Yeah, so it's a new network called Drink TV that's launching this year, and it's an OTT network. You guys all know what an OTT network is. An OTT network, it just means over the top network, and so it just means it goes over the top of traditional broadcast, and it's basically just means it's on the internet. They just call it OTT so that they don't have to call it a web series. And so basically there's quite a few of them around, but this one is run by some guys who used to work at I think Hulu and some other places, and they kind of started their own thing, and they're basically just starting these kind of different niche networks that are online. They have one called the Warrior Network that's like all military stuff and former vets who like own businesses. And then they have Drink TV, which they're launching, which is like cocktails and spirits and wine and bars and craft beer. So basically, I take all of my content that I've made and I license it to them. I still own it, but they show it on their network. Yeah, and then I get a majority of the commercial coverage money that gets paired with my media. What's that? Are they selling all the avails? I don't know what that means.
That's the number of commercials, so available commercials, you call them avails. So are they selling all the commercials? But on the web, you're not really limited to the half an hour that a commercial series is. So you have different, you make up the avails as you need them, you want them.
Yeah, I think it's just like, it's like they'll put a pre-roll ad in between. They'll add commercial breaks, and they'll put these pre-roll ads and mid-roll ads. And I just make when an ad gets put on my media, I make 70% of that, and they keep 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long are your episodes usually?
Yeah, the shortest one I think is 6 minutes, and then the longest one is like maybe 17. So they vary quite a bit. I try to hit like 12. I think 17 is a little long, but I think people's attention spans are kind of short. So like if something ends up being less than 10 minutes, I feel like it's fine. The nice thing with doing the first 2 seasons, without anyone really looking over my shoulder, is that I could just kind of make it as long or as short as I wanted. But then I wasn't making money, so.
Is this Drink TV available on the internet?
No, they haven't launched it yet. So they're launching it sometime in the next couple of months. So they have they have a Facebook page, and they have they have TV4 Entertainment is the name of the company. They're just in, I think, Santa Monica or El Segundo or something. And they have a few of these other niche content networks. They have one that's like about cars. They have one at like the Warrior Network, and then the Drink TV is like their new one that they're launching this year.
What's the cars one?
I don't remember. Yeah.
Will there be a season 3?
Yeah. So that's another sort of way of monetizing it that we're thinking about for moving forward for season 3. Now that we've established kind of our value as a voice in the craft beer industry, we can now approach different breweries and be like, hey, if you give us capital to make season 3, we'll kind of center it around your business, and like your business will become the home base for the show. So that's what we're probably going to do moving forward. We're talking to a couple of different breweries in town about that, but we haven't decided who we're going with yet, so I won't say. I don't know. I kind of like Sleepaway. Yeah. It's actually, Sleepaway is like our most popular episode, I think. We just did this goofy scripted thing, and the fictional ones are the ones people like more, I think, but we try to do both.
You mentioned you had done some spots for Thorn. I happen to be cutting a sizzle reel for a web show that some of those spots were on. Were you responsible for the phone sex ad?
Yeah, the fake.
I watched this show all the way through to figure out what I was going to pull out for the sizzle reel.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, the best part of that half-hour show were those flipping spots.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, we did a like a fake. Remember phone sex lines when those existed? We did like a fake commercial for this beer, but it's called the Foreplay Belgian Blonde. So it's like dial 1-900-THORN, and we did it like made it look all VHS, and we had like one of the bartenders with yeah, it's only a minute long. And do you guys want to see it?
They have a live webcasting interview. Oh, here it is. 52,000 views. How much is it?
Are you a craft beer enthusiast looking for a good time? Call 1-900-THORN Street and give our Foreplay Belgian-style blonde ale a try. Foreplay. Weighing in at a girthy 6.8% ABV, this beer will be sure to wet your whistle. Belgian Pilsner malt and spicy Czech Saaz hops are used in this traditional Belgian-style countryside ale, where yeast-derived flavors of pear and apricot blend with floral and spice notes. Foreplay. Easy drinking. So easy. Deceptively natty with a near 7% ABV. This beer needs spanking. Thorn Street's Foreplay Belgian Blonde. All major credit cards accepted. No checks or CODs. Call now.
Yeah, that's me. That's my time. Thanks, guys.
Tom Kaletinoy, people. Give him a hand. So we also have Raeann Giles, who made the drive down from Los Angeles to talk to us, and we've all made that drive. Know how horrible that is. Raeann, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and do your thing, kid.
Okay, hello, I am Raeann Giles, and I made that wonderful drive from LA because it's so much fun. It actually wasn't that bad. I left at like 1. I think it took me two and a half hours. It's pretty good. Yeah, that's not happening until tomorrow. So basically, I made a web series called Stay at Home Mom. It's one of the projects. I'm working on several different projects right now, but originally I'm from San Diego. I moved here in 2002 to go to USD Law School. I graduated there in 2004 and very quickly decided I was not going to be a lawyer. So I became an actor because that's the natural course, right? And then I'm going to run for governor someday. So I started acting here. I started with Shame and Freitas. I've been with them for, like 15 years, I think. And then I went back to school a few years ago. I moved to Los Angeles, and I had the wonderful experience of going to UCLA's program, and I got my MFA in screenwriting there, and that was amazing. And they opened up so many doors for me, and they're pretty much, I think, what got my project going and what got me on a lot of other projects. But first of all, I started this project here in San Diego. So I was an actor. Oops, I'm not going to do that again. I was an actor for maybe 10 years, and I started writing. And I started a program at UCLA that was like an online screenwriting type of program, a professional program first. And I wrote this as a television pilot. And one of my professors had suggested that I turn it into a web series. And what was really key was, I think, originally her telling me, write something that you know. So, I was always trying to come up with ideas like, I think my first feature was about this guy that was trying to become a Hooters girl. I was like trying to think of funny things to write about. And then I said, okay, I'll try and write what I know. So at this point in my life, I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. I have 3 kids. I have a 7-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy, and he's going to turn 1 in a week with another little boy. And so what I knew at that point in my life was being a stay-at-home mom. So when she said, write about that, I'm thinking, what am I going to write about? Like doing laundry and like cleaning my house and, putting people on timeouts and changing diapers? Like what in the world would I write about? And she's like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you're going to write about. So I did. So eventually became this web series. I went to UCLA and I took this project, and among writing other features and other things that I was working on, I took this project and I took a bunch of producing classes and different things like that just to basically develop it. Originally, though, I had already cast it. I thought I was going to make this in San Diego, keep it here, and it was just, going to be my little project that I wanted to do. I had cast it in San Diego, and then after that, before I shot it, I got moved up to LA. So when I got to LA, I was like, well, I'm still going to make it. But I'm come from the actor side and the screenwriting side, so I didn't know a lot about producing something. And what I did want out of this project was I wanted a new reel, because here I had been playing 18 to 25 forever, and now I was a mom, and I wanted to play a mom. And am I not doing this? Is it making funny noises at me? No. Okay. And so, what was I saying? So, yes. So I wanted a new reel, and I also wanted something that I had written, like a showcase piece, right? So I didn't know who was going to make it or how to make it. So I actually ended up going to a company originally that makes actors reels. And I was like, hey, I have my script. Can you shoot it? It was basically what I decided to do. And he was like, I guess. We usually write scripts for people or write scenes, and stuff like that. But if you have your own, and I guess we can do that. So a bunch of people came to my house one day with my actors that I had cast, and we shot it. And it was one of those things where, there's like a saying that we have that's like, fake it until you make it. And I was faking it like all the way through. You can assure. And I was, I would do the whole like, oh yeah, people, do you want to use this, or do you want to use this lens? Or, yes, totally. Like, I want to use that one. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I went along with it, and I learned so much from the director and from everybody that was on board with it. And so, we shot it in a couple days, and I had written, I think we did 5 episodes that were roughly about 3 minutes long. And so I took that, and then, people were like, oh, you should, try and get it into festivals and stuff. And I had not done that either. I hadn't put my own work in festivals. But I started submitting to festivals, and lo and behold, we ended up going to, we got probably over 20 nominations and wins. We went to Vancouver Web Fest, Miami Web Fest, LA Web Fest, Rome Web Awards. We went all over the place, and we won awards, and it did pretty well. And so this little project ended up just opening every door for me. I pitched it a few different times at UCLA. I pitched it and I ended up getting a manager out of it and a management company to represent it. They really liked it and they liked my work, and so they took it. And then basically from that, they said, we love it, but we need more content. We need more minutes. You need to do more. So we need to do like a season 2. So I said, okay. And here comes the funding, right? Because originally this was very low budget because I essentially went to an actor's real place and paid what you would pay them to have them shoot, 10 pages of footage if you wanted them to shoot it. So I wasn't sure how I was going to fund it. And I was actually lucky enough to have written other screenplays that won awards, and I got fellowships and stuff at UCLA. So that was how I ended up getting the funding to shoot a season 2. And I didn't know that I was going to be getting those. So as soon as I got it, I put, season 2 together really quickly. I wrote it again, sent it out again and again and again to different people to read. And that's one thing I really learned was your script should be completely solid. And this is so much a different type of content than the brewery because this is scripted story. So it's hard to know when you're like ready to shoot a script, but I've probably written every draft we shot, I wrote at least 20 times, just over and over again with so many different eyes and so many different notes, and just really worked it until it was ready. And so we shot the second episode, the second season, and we went and did the same festival circuits, and it did even better, and I got it into even more festivals, and it won more awards, and some of the same ones and some different ones. And so at that point, my managers were like, okay, it's ready. We have something we can package up. So I learned how to pitch. I took a class where I learned how to make a pitch video, and we shot a pitch video where, gosh, I used to have a website that had all of these different videos and stuff, but recently, as of like a month ago, the show got picked up and bought by a network. So I still own it technically, but I don't have like all the fun little stuff. They took everything from me. But I can show it to you. You can watch it on Amazon. But yeah, so basically, we pitched it. I pitched this thing a million times. There's this thing at Vancouver Web Fest that's amazing. And if when you make content, if you get the chance to go to festivals, you should go because they have amazing things like Pitch Fest, where I did a thing that's kind of like speed dating, where you go around to 25 different people and you get 3 minutes to tell them, because that's enough time to pitch and talk and get to know each other. And and I learned very quickly within like the third person, don't even try. Just be like, I have a show. It's funny. It's about moms. Here's my card. And then they ask you questions and then you can talk. But I got the opportunity to talk to, 25 different people and pitch, my series to a bunch of different people. And so, eventually it got out there. I got enough recognition. And lo and behold, my manager calls me one day and says, hey, there's this network, Comedy Dynamics. They do mostly stand-up. They're on Amazon, Hulu, and Roku. But they're taking on new series. And that's what's great about right now is that people want content. There's this thing, they say content is king, and people want stuff to put on their platforms because that's the wave of everything. All the people I know that have worked at ABC and Fox and all these places, they're all moving to digital platforms. They're moving to Netflix, they're moving to Amazon, they're moving to Awesomeness TV because that's where the money is and that's where the work is. So to get your stuff on a digital platform, say maybe 10 years ago, people are like, oh, so you made something on YouTube, how cute, But now, if you get something on Amazon or on Hulu, people are just like, wow, that's a big deal. And that's where everything is going. So, yeah, there's this network, and he said, well, they do mostly stand-up, but they're taking on 10 new series, and they really like yours if you're interested. So, we went through a process of a good 6 months maybe of going back and forth with contracts, and that's not like continuously 6 months. In this business, you make a phone call and you have a meeting, and then you're like, yay, we're gonna get this deal, and then it's like 2 months later and you're like, I totally didn't get that deal. And then a week later they call and they're like, yeah, so anyways, we were talking, and you're like, oh, you're still there, okay, you're still interested. So over, I think from March until maybe June or July, we finally worked out a deal and I signed the contract with them. So it's on Comedy Dynamics Network, which is super cool. It's streaming on Amazon right now. Their channel is also on Roku, Hulu, I think like Google Play, iTunes, a bunch of different places. So it's slowly seeping out there. Amazon was the first place that that it's on there. It's streamed. I guess things don't air anymore. There's all these new terminologies too. It's like things don't air, they stream, and things don't have a, what is it when they would like have a release date or an air date? Now they drop. They're like, oh, your show's going to drop on September 12th, and I'm like a record? Like what do you mean it's going to drop? But yeah, it drops like into the air. So we put it on this network, and there's a season 1 and season 2. It's really short content. It's like 3-minute episodes. Yeah, I didn't have like a whole thing, and I can show you stuff. Like I can open this up and show you stuff. I didn't write out like a nice little presentation. Yeah, please. Yeah. Oh, Oh, really? Nice. Yeah. Wow. But is there any kind of like details you can give the crowd here as far as like that? Did you get in advance? What kind of a deal did you kind of work out that's with Comedy Dynamics? So the cool thing is I have a manager that went and did this. So I wasn't in the room during like a lot of the different things. I was there for like the final stuff that I got to come in and talk about. But there's a lot of different things we worked out. One of them was whether or not we could screen in more festivals, if there was like theatrical rights and that sort of thing. And I really fought for them to let us because I knew that this could go to more festivals. So the great thing about web festivals is that they're not as saturated as regular film, another film festival where you would, submit a short film or a feature film. There's probably 20 really good ones, and they get your stuff out there, and it's not as competitive. So, I mean, every time, we were supposed to screen in Florida, unfortunately, because of the hurricane, they didn't have Miami Web Fest. They're still going to have it in April. But I really wanted to screen there because that's a whole audience of Miami, of Florida, right? So I really fought to keep that in my contract, and they kept it. So now I can still screen it at different festivals and pick up those audiences, internationally and all over the place. What are some other deals that we did? One, it is much better to go to a network than to distribute it like on YouTube or something. YouTube, it's an interesting thing. I did my thesis actually on MCNs. I don't know if you guys know MCNs. They're multi-channel networks within YouTube, and they're basically a network within YouTube. They're kind of like a middleman, and you join their network, and you get their viewers, but they're supposed to like help you promote your page and promote your stuff. But the thing is, YouTube takes 40% of everything. First of all, you don't make very much to begin with. You have to get 1 million views before you're really making any like $100. But they take 40%. And then if you have an MCN, a multi-channel network that you join, they can take another 20% or so. So you hear about these $1 million YouTube stars, and they do exist. But one, they started like 9 years ago when there wasn't a lot of content out. So they kind of, I think he was saying earlier about like if you get on board really early with things. So they've had a lot of views from the very beginning, and they didn't have as big of a competition pool. And then also, they take more money. So if you get with a network, then you get a lot more money per those views, and you share the network money. So like you bring in the audience, and it's not just like per download. So like if I did a deal independently with Amazon, people would maybe have to pay $1 every time they want to, download my episode or something like that. And obviously you need a lot of people doing that to really be making some money. But with the network, if you go on to here, I think it's like Comedy Dynamics channel. Like if you're a Prime Amazon member, hold on. If you're a Prime, you can play here anyways. It's not that much. If you're a Prime Amazon member, you buy the channel for $3.99, and
The
And
mic's
then-
for the camera.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That would make a lot more sense. I do need my hands for that. Okay, so hold on, pause. Oh, is that what that's for? Just kidding. Oh, wow, such service. Thank you. Okay, well, let's see if I can even type and talk at the same time, because that might not even be. Let's see. Well, actually, if we go to comedy. Oh, wait, never mind. Let's just go to the website because it'll take us right there. So this is my pretty web. So I did my own website. And it used to have a bunch of different stuff on it. Thank you. It used to have so I tried to advertise the show a lot with my website, right? And so it looks like, I'm probably in the way. It looks like this now, but it used to have all of our trailers and a bunch of different trailers of all of the show. And then you could go on to awards, and it showed all the different festivals we'd been to and all our laurels and stuff like that, and all the actors and their bios, and it had a bunch of different tabs. Now it's just this, because now it's if you want to watch it, you go to Amazon and then you pay for the Comedy Dynamics channel, just like if you were to add an HBO channel or something to your subscription, and then you get to watch it along with all their other series. So that's kind of how the revenue is generated. It's not just your show when you're joining a network, which is really cool. Exactly. So oh, here, I'll show you our trailer.
My God, you've popped. You are so huge. You are so much bigger than me. Are you sure it's not twins? It's breast milk. I know your milk's gonna be in, but not for a while. We don't have that kind of time.
You like breastfeeding? It's supposed to taste like cream, right?
Here you go, Mr. Graham.
She's your new assistant?
It's only temporary.
He's had a crush on Cinnamon since the day he picked her up on a street corner.
I'm Cinnamon, with an S. But you can call me Sin.
It's normal to find other people attractive. Just because we're married.
Doesn't mean we're dead.
No, he was not just any doctor.
You have a crush on him.
Crush? No.
This is the doctor? You've got a big, healthy baby in there.
Reason we didn't recognize you. What was your name?
My father once told me that the secret to a lasting marriage is you choose to make it work.
If all else fails, you get therapy.
We good?
We're good.
We found your children. You can come to the security office to pick them up.
You lost them both?
Cheers to the new work couple. Couple? Bitch! Oh my god, did you just pee?
Aw, So that's the series. It's thank you. It's a scripted comedy show about parenting and moms, and the cattiness that goes on with the moms, and the comedy of raising kids. So this is if you go to the network, this is what it looks like. And so you can oh, sorry, here we go. I got the mic. So you can start your subscription for a 7-day free trial, but otherwise I think it's $3.99 when you add this channel. But this is what it looks like. And then when you go onto Amazon, it has all the individual episodes and seasons and that sort of thing.
The channel has more on it than just you, or is it just you?
No, there's a whole bunch of series. So they do, they used to just do stand-up. So if you go there right now, you're going to see a bunch of stand-up. But they do have new series. They have new scripted comedy series, and they also have feature films. And they took on a bunch of new feature films. So, yeah. Yes. Yes. So each network has their own contract with these different digital platforms as well. So they have a contract with Amazon, Hulu, Roku, Google Play, iTunes, a bunch of different platforms like that, which it will eventually be on most of those, if not all of them. But I think they try and gear it towards, what it fits best. Amazon, I think, appeals to everybody. Most people have Amazon Prime, especially parents, because once you have a bunch of kids, it's just hard to shop. So you do everything on Amazon Prime. So maybe that was one of their ideas. But yeah, I'm trying. There's probably. Oh yeah, please. Are they benefiting? No, right. Well, yeah, actually, because almost half of the cast is from them. Yeah, so they definitely get. Are you with them too? Yeah, so they definitely get the percentage of the actors' pay. So this was all deferred pay for the actors. I did a SAG New Media contract, and there were, we tapped hardly a few people to get into it, and everyone was deferred pay, and nobody was. I don't think anyone expected to make a dime, right? Like at least every time I've done a deferred paid project, I'm like, that means no pay. Like, why just put no pay, because you're not going to pay me. I get it. I'll do it anyways. It's fine. It'll be fun. But yeah, so this was really surprising, and I did get to write Carol an email and say, hey, Carol, like my show got picked up. And so yeah, this means that like the actors get paid from the deferred pay, and so I need to pay you from it. But like, it was just, she's like, wow, this is the first. This is the first deferred pay.
I'm confused on the interaction between just, if you don't have Amazon Prime, you don't have access to pay the $3.99 a month?
No, you do. I think it's like $4.99 or something like that. Yeah, it's just, yeah. And something that's interesting about Amazon that I learned is that they originally knew they were going to take on all of these shows and movies. It was not about the shopping originally. It was to get the audience and the people, and that's what Prime was made for. Prime was made so that eventually you could consume entertainment. I think I just flicked a hair tie. I do magic tricks too every now and then, so watch out. Like, you're in the wet zone, so I might score. I'm just kidding. But yeah, they originally knew that this is what they were going to do. So they start this whole shopping thing, and they get everybody in shopping, and then they start the Prime thing, which, everybody gets the 2-day shipping. And then, now if you're a Prime member, you can actually also consume our content for even a lower price, or there's certain things. And that was part of the whole thing. And the next thing to come is product placing within these shows. So, like what's like Transparent, or like different shows that are specifically Amazon. And within, I don't know, maybe the next few years here, you'll be able to like click on like the suit the guy's wearing and buy it if you want to, or, the furniture on the set. That's all part of the plan. That's what they're doing. I go to school with these people that are doing it, or I went to school with them, so it's coming. But yeah, Amazon's an interesting thing.
What is the crew complement while you're shooting? Is it a major production? Is it 3 people?
Right. So it's small. It's a skeleton crew that shot this, but I didn't do all of it myself. So I hired a director because I wanted to act in it, and I felt that I would just be better for me as an actor to hire a director. So we had a director, we had a DP. I think we had like a first camera assistant. We had an AD, we had some PAs. It's not a huge crew, but kind of just all your basics. What I really tried to make sure was that my sound was good. My sound guy made the most money off of this project, and that my lighting was good and the way I shot it, because that's the most important things. I think there's 3 most important things to making anything. Your story needs to be good. Your story needs to be solid and good characters and good engaging characters that, if you're doing something story that's scripted, good character arc, good. I come from a screenwriting background, so it's so important to me that the story's solid before you're even shooting it, and then that you can see it and hear it clearly. And I think those things are winners.
Was it on a set, or did you get?
So low budget. We shot at my house. Everyone got to watch my kids roll out of bed and come down the stairs and go, whoa, like what is this camera crew doing in my house? We shot at my house, and I think there were like, once we kind of shot at a park, there were like a couple little things we did, but mostly at my house, and we made things work. Like, I don't have all the episodes up here because I have to buy them. They're on my computer, so I have a hard drive. But there's episodes where we had to make it look like a doctor's office, and so we're like, okay, what do we do in my house? I live in a 3-bedroom, 1,500 square foot house, so there's not a lot of options. But we had to make a doctor's office. So we cleared out a wall and we put 2 chairs and a little table and some flowers and some magazines. And then they're like, wait, you went to law school, right? Where's your law degree? Where's your diploma? And I'm like, in the garage. So this is how much I knew I wasn't going to be a lawyer. I had never opened my very beautiful mahogany framed law degree from University of San Diego Law School, just because I think like I was taking the bar and I don't know, you get like so busy and into it that you just forget those types of things, right? And I had moved so many times that I was like, well, I don't want to ruin the packaging because I have to move again. And so I just stayed there. So we opened up my law degree for the first time after like 14 years. And I could probably say this is like $100,000 production value thing because of the law degree in the back. That certificate cost way more than this production, but I had like the most expensive set piece ever. But we put my law degree back there and then we made it look like a doctor's office, you know? And then we had him come through a door that was my bathroom and we put like a little, I don't know, like a little folder holder thing. And when he had a little doctor jacket on and luckily a lab coat. He's this model that is, super thin and fit. And I had a lab coat from auditioning for doctor stuff, which you're not supposed to do. I learned later on, but that's another story. But anyways, he's wearing the lab coat, and he walks out of the bathroom, but we had to make it dark so you can't see that it's a bathroom. And he picks up the folder and he kind of looks, and we just made it work. And it looks like he's coming out of a doctor's office and there's 2 people sitting there waiting to see him. But it's all in my house. So yeah, we did everything in my house. And she can attest to that. In really hot weather. The first time we shot, it was August. It was 111 degrees. And we shot in my backyard. And it was it was hot. And then the second season, it was about the same. And we were both very pregnant. I was 8 months pregnant. She was 7 months pregnant. Producing something when you're 8 months pregnant is a really bad idea. I mean, you can do it and it happened. And I got to like have a real belly, and luckily my character was pregnant in it, which is weird because I had written that like 4 years beforehand and I hadn't really planned on having another kid. So now I'm afraid like things I write are going to come true. So I only write about winning the lottery now, and like that's it. But we shot in my house. It was super low budget. So let me think here. So we had cast, and then after we cast it was a little bit of a wait because I moved and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And then we shot over a weekend, basically, is all we did. And we did very long days over a weekend. And then it was probably, we did like a table read and stuff a week before just to kind of, with the director, to kind of make sure that everybody was on board and he could hear the actors and see the interactions and have an idea how to work with them. We did not do that for season 2 because he already knew the actors knew their characters. It was pretty quick. The second one especially was pretty quick, but it was easier because we'd done it once before. And so we kind of knew how to write towards the characters, and they knew their characters, and so we did all 5 or 6 episodes in like 2 to 3 days. So we did a lot a day. We didn't necessarily do like one per day. We did, per location, depending on whatever worked out. We did it in like a 3-day weekend. It was very quick. A lot of work afterwards though. So I did some of the editing, but I hired an editor to do the first part of it. And then I hired a colorist and, a sound editor to do all of those to make sure, because I knew I could probably tinker with it, but I really wanted it to be polished, and I'm not an editor. And now I kind of feel like one, but back then I was not an editor and I knew that. So I wanted to hand it to someone that really knew what they were doing. And these people, they were working for cheap because I made each season with like $4,000. So it was cheap, and it wasn't a lot, but they wanted to be a part of it, and they all kind of knew each other, and they were not students, but recent graduates. And so, they all helped out and did it. I did edit the trailers and stuff like that. The most work I found, though, were the deliverables to the network. That was all me, and that was hard. And I remember after I signed the contract, I went and had a glass of wine, or maybe 3, but I celebrated, and it was really exciting. And then the next day, they were like, here's your list of deliverables. And I'm like, what's that? And wow, like, and there's so many things that I learned. You're nodding because I'm sure you've been through this. There's so many things I've learned as far as just exactly what they want. Yeah, and they want very specific things for it to go on a network, and very specific, like make sure, you know, your any writing isn't outside of the new little, yeah, this exactly, and all of the like music cues and stuff. For music, I used audio blocks. I put in the music for it. We had a composer for the first one, and it didn't fit the tone of the show that I was hoping for. So I took it out, and then I got an audio blocks account, and I added where I thought it could go. With that, when you go to network and you do the deliverables, they want all the cue sheets of everything. I'm not kidding. Like 3 weeks ago, I sat there for 72 hours and found every minute in every episode and had what thing did I use? Where's the name of it? And had to make all these documents and lots of documents and lots of stuff. So now going forward, I'll always know to plan ahead in case it does go to a network and they want all these deliverables a specific way, to make sure everything's organized and everything's done a certain way. We did 5 to 6. We did 5. I think there's 5 in the first season with like a trailer pitch type of thing. That's an entire episode. So 6 and 6, roughly. A dozen episodes altogether. 3 minutes, give or take. See, that's a good question. One thing I've really learned is there are no rules yet to this whole like smorgasbord of like digital content, but they're starting to become rules. So my reps felt that it was good if I at least had 30 minutes of something, you know, because originally it was 15 minutes. It wasn't a lot. And they were like, give us a dozen of something. And originally we also thought this was going to go to branded content. So that's another option with web series, is to go branded content is a huge thing now, to attach your thing to brands. So, you know, beer, you know, whatever the brand is, mine would go with something, you know, baby mom related, like a bottle brand or Pampers or wine. Exactly. Wine. Whoever said that. That's probably the first option. But branded content, that's how I thought it was going to go, because they're short episodes, and short episodes are great for branded content. And I know what they're looking for with that. I just got a mandate the other day that was they wanted 8 episodes, 3 to 5 minutes in length, that were branded content that they could use for different brands. So that's kind of a good template. I know if you want to put something on Hulu, they like the 10 by 10 a lot right now. So anything that I'm making that wants to be pitched to Hulu, my reps are like, make sure it's 10 by 10, 10 minutes, 10 episodes. They like the 10 minute mark for whatever reason, and they like to have 10 of them. And that's something that seems to be enough content for Hulu right now. It wasn't like that 6 months ago. So, yeah.
Are they sensitive to the minutia of brand name products appearing incidentally? A box of Cheerios at the breakfast table.
Right. So apparently that's now old school. They tell me that they don't do that as much anymore. But, I mean, you can still do it.
Is it a concern?
Oh, is it a concern if you do that, if you have a brand? Yeah, I've always known that you should be careful to hide it. If you watch our episode, there is clearly a license plate on a minivan that says Toyota of Carlsbad. So I don't recommend it, but it gets through sometimes. Yes.
So did your connection with this network, did it come through like one of your pitches at a festival, or was it all just through your manager?
So it's kind of everything together, right? It's like my own little path. So why originally I got my manager because I made this. So I made it and then I pitched it in a production class at UCLA. One of the guests that had come saw it and he really liked it, and he told another guy that he worked with at his company about it. They took me on as a management company. And yes, they pitched it. However, they would not have taken it had we not been to all the festivals. So they thought, because I didn't release it. So that's the other thing that's interesting too, is you're always kind of in that bind. Do I release it or do I not release it? And everybody always told me, don't release it, hold on to it. And I had no idea why. I just did it and I just listened, and I really still can't tell you why. I just went, okay. And I didn't release it. But yeah, because we went to all the festivals and we got the awards and we got the laurels, that made it attractive. And my series, it was almost kind of by accident too. And like these things happen all the time. I mean, they say accident, it's kind of not, because, you know, you pave your path. But my manager went in to pitch a movie to these people, and they said, and this is usually what happens when you go to pitch things. They say, no, what else you got? No, what else you got? And they end up taking the third thing that you give them. So my managers are like in their late 20s. Okay, I'm 38. So, and they don't have kids. I think one of them is married. They're not into like mom content, you know? So mine must have been like number 27 that came up in the pitch, because I don't think they were thinking like, oh, and we have this great mom content, you know? They're trying to pitch like their sci-fi movies and like, you know, their cool stuff like that, because that's what they're into. But eventually mine came up in the list, and she was like, I love it. I like that one. And so I got the phone call. So, I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, it all kind of just came together. But I think like it's not just him, because if he wouldn't have just taken me, if he had just seen this, if I had sent it to him, but because it went to festivals and because it was doing well, they were like, oh, and they're like, well, I think that's a specific audience. That's the other thing people like, is a niche audience. Like, make something specific to an audience, because that's where everything is going. Everything is categorized that way. Everything, you know, there's so much content out there that you really want. Gone are the days of having the 4 networks that appeal to everybody on TGIF, you know? Now it's like these very specific types of content. And this is also something interesting to me, because I went back to school. So like I said, I graduated from law school in 2004. I went back to school 3 years ago, and that's how old I am. I can't remember. And it was only 2 years ago. And I'm in school. Half of them are in their 30s, but half of them are in their 20s. And what I learned is people don't have televisions anymore. Like the younger like under 30, they don't buy TVs. When the Oscars came on and stuff, they're all like, who has a TV? Like, where can we watch it? You know, or who, like a football game or something. So they consume their content online. Like, that is where everything is. And that's what they look for. And they want content. And that's just where it's going. So I think it's just a fantastic time to be a content creator. It's a fantastic time to be someone independent that wants to make their own stuff, because there's not as many gatekeepers now, you know? I mean, there will be like that. This will figure itself out. But right now, there's just so many opportunities, and there's so many things out there, so many platforms, and people want so much content. So it's a great time to make it. Yeah.
So now that you've kind of been nominally successful, what is your like per episode budget?
So we're not making this one anymore. We might make a season 3, but they wanted to run it and see how it's going. I'm working on a new series right now that is independently being done by me. It might be done by another company. If it is done by another company, they're going to make the season for about $1 million. So completely different. Yeah. But I don't know. It might still be my own. If it's still my own, then it won't be $1 million, because I don't want to spend my $1 million. But yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, when these things do go to like Awesomeness TV or something like that, yeah. I mean, I know. So my manager did pitch this to Hulu and stuff to have it remade originally, and they said they were asking for about $1 million to do a new season, like to do a short new season.
But a short new season is going to be like
10 by 10, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's still considered very low budget, but it's, I mean, compared to, you know, when you fund it yourself, you're like, wow, I mean, well, look what I could do with $1 million. Could like hire real people like for every different thing, right? Yes.
So does your, like, what you make financially depend on how well it's, like, how many people watch it and how many people pay for it here?
Yes and no. Like I said earlier, because it's part of a network, there's automatically a share. And then it also does depend on how many people are watching it.
And I have no sense of like the ballpark amount of like if you do, you know, like you are able to get this kind of like ballpark, but how much money?
It's profitable. Like, it is profitable it's much better than putting it on YouTube. And we don't know until year end exactly how much it is going to make. But I was told that, I mean, I do know that they don't invest in it unless they think it's going to make them a profit, you know? So, I mean, I can't really give you a number, But I can say it's better than YouTube. It's better than independently distributing it on your own, or independently doing an Amazon deal on your own.
It's interesting because the Comedy Dynamics thing is a network that exists on several platforms, right?
Right.
Whereas we're used to South Park being on Comedy Central.
Right.
Like isolated to one channel, right? This is multiple channels.
Exactly. And so what's interesting is like we're exclusive to Comedy Dynamics. It will only be on there forever. At least seasons 1 and 2, but they're on multiple platforms though. So now all the channels, and it's even like that, like with Fox or ABC. I mean, you'll see them on Amazon and on Hulu and on, you'll be able to access their shows on lots of different platforms. Yes. Right. So they get the content that's already shot forever. It's licensed forever. I still own it. It's licensed forever. And they have first right of refusal for a season 3 or for a spinoff. So they could potentially have my spinoff if they wanted it. But absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm not making something for them. Yeah, they're going to pay for it. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what's great about it. When you do join a network is that, and if they do have first right of refusal, there's the agreement that they're putting in the money to produce it.
Did you ever try to do a sunset clause on that? Because I've never done a contract that doesn't have a sunset clause.
Tell me what a sunset clause is exactly.
Like 5 years, or even the longest one I ever did was Japan for 7 years, but it was Japan and Japanese.
Right.
But yeah, there's nothing I've ever produced that I just sold to somebody.
That you just sold off? Oh, okay. I believed in it because the numbers were good enough for me. So, and it was short. It was short content, and it was. We went back and forth a lot on different things. I didn't feel like I needed to, I guess, because I felt like this isn't my only project, I guess, because I'm making other stuff and I write feature films. And so for this one, for me personally, I was okay with just letting them have it and taking what they were giving me for it. But I did do the things like if I want to do a season 3 or if I want to expand, or if somebody, like if Hulu came to me and said, we love this, we want to make it into a 10 by 10 or something like that. I still own this content, and they sit and I can say yes. And Comedy Dynamics can either match it or go above it if they want it, or I take Hulu's. And what I really did hang on to more so than that is I wanted to still own it. That was my main thing. Because they were, like, a lot of places are willing to give you like a big MG if you just completely sign it over. And that was something that I did refuse, because I felt like this is a sample, because they're short episodes. So you could do stuff with it. You could expand on it, or you could spin off of it. And I thought it was in my best interest to kind of keep it as this, let them advertise it and such and get paid for it. And then it could turn into something bigger. I don't have the metrics on that yet. I don't know. This just started on Amazon 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, maybe. So I don't know yet. Enough to where if you go into the channel, which I guess I could start my free trial. If you go into the channel, they list the series. There's Amazon has an algorithm that brings up the most popular shows first, or the most popular movies, and we've been in slots between 1, 2, or 3 since we were on. So I know people are watching it more than the other series, but I don't know how many. But that makes me feel good. I'm like, oh, because at first you had to like scroll all the way to the right, It's like, look, mine's like over there. And then it's like within maybe 2 days, it kind of creeped up, and like overnight, maybe it creeped up, and it was like it shares, but trades places with one of their shows they produce called Full Frontal Comedy, I believe. And it kind of tinkers back between the 1 and 2 space. So someone's watching it. Yes.
So, you say you still own it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on there. Do they put any sort of limitations as to, like, if you decided to sell to another network at the same time, or anything, things you're not allowed to do even though you still own it?
So I can't sell this exact footage, but I could sell like a 10-minute episode of it if I wanted to. So they don't own, but they're licensed to have this specific footage. It is only 30 minutes total. It is not a lot of streaming time. It's very short. But that's what they have a right to. You mean like reshoot it? Just use what I already have? Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they said, we want to buy your 30 minutes to put in our show. And it's broadcast, it's not web. Could you do that?
Oh, if it was broadcast. Right. Is it everything?
I've got a feature film we did, and we're now being represented by First Run Films. So now something as simple as, if somebody wants to buy a DVD of that film, we have to direct them to First Run Films, who would then sell it and then pay us our percentage.
Right.
We can't sell our own DVD, even though we own the film and they're just representing.
Right. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that exactly. My guess would be no, is that they would keep it, but I don't know. And coming from law school, I mean, yeah, I'd probably try and argue it if it's something I really wanted, and I'd try and find my way around it. But what I think what would realistically happen is that somebody would want to reshoot it into a 30 minutes. Yes. So we did 2 years of festivals. So we did season 1, and it depended on the festival. So some festivals let us screen the entire season. Some of them said, depending on the parameters of their slots, what we were able to show. In Vancouver, we showed 3 episodes. Some of them we showed all of them. Some of them I kind of, I edited it up to kind of show a story or in different festivals. But yeah, and then the second year was basically the same thing. So it really just depended on the festival. So another good point is when you think about making these and you want them to go into festivals, it's great to have them go into festivals because that's how they get exposure, and that's when you get those laurels and those awards. People do notice it, and it makes it more appealing to buy it. When a lot of times you kind of want to look at how long they want to be. So they usually have a shorter and longer category, and the shorters are usually under 5 minutes, and they want them under 5 minutes, and then longers no more than 20 minutes, I want to say. But I took that, I remember looking it up and just kind of learning about what, how long should this be? Because, I come from screenwriting. It's like my sitcoms are, 22 pages, they're 30-minute things. My hour-longs are 60, and my features are 100 pages. Like, that's how I was taught. So when it's time to do a web series, I'm like, how long is this supposed to be? I had no idea. And I specifically made it for 2 reasons. One, I made it within those categories, the 3 to 5 minute category, so I knew that I could, submit it to these festivals. And 2, because it's cheaper, because it's only 3 to 5 minutes, and that was a low budget, so I went for that. Does that answer your question? Sure. Thank you so much.
And Raeann, I do also want to say thank you for hiring directors and editors and other people to work on your project, especially in scripted, especially in narrative, because if you are the writer, director, lead actor, editor, you're too close to the project to actually do any of those jobs well. So good on you. Mm-hmm.
It's great. I mean, I think the best money is spent on the things, the quality, the production quality of it, and the good actors, and luckily, the actors are going to get paid.
And you get better projects when you have multiple people involved and different brains on the project. One of the most difficult edits I've had in years was a quadruple threat. It was a writer, actor, director, and to try and work in that environment is very, very difficult. You're too close to the project. You know, if you're the writer, every word is sacred. If you're the actor, you always got to be on screen, right? So, and it just becomes horribly difficult. Before we wrap this whole thing, I want to bring Patrick over. He works here at this lovely facility, and give him a chance to tell you about Signature Sound.
Hi. I'm sure you want to hear me talk for hours more now. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks. It's awesome that you guys could come in. We are definitely more of like an audio recording studio, but as you can see, we have trusses and lights and all sorts of technical camera terms that you all probably know more than I do. But we have a great little video control room. If you guys want to sneak in there, ask us as many questions as you want about what we have going on. We've been live streaming the whole thing. So I guess the theme of tonight has been kind of like more like DIY, trying to get your project out there on the cheap and try and do things economically, which everyone in the audio world is trying to do too. So we're trying to provide some cool video services for smaller projects that might just need like a sound stage or a little talk show set up. We have roundtable discussions. We've had some meetings in here like this before, but our emphasis right now is a little bit more on like live streaming and things like that. So making events like this. So if you see me or Max or Luis, we all have name tags. So just hit us up, ask us any questions you like, and we'd love to talk to you. Cool. Thanks for coming out.